This is not a test. Now is the time to panic.
California is now the first state to be under a state of emergency over the rising cases of bird flu.
The Al Jawani death bounty being dropped has regional experts wondering if terror designations are losing their cachet, with some terror organizations complaining that the work they've put in for accreditation is becoming worthless. Next, in New York City, the police chief asking subordinates to kiss his penis. And the inside scoop on just how much penis kissing was going on. In Hollywood, Disney pulls its first transgender character from Win or Lose, a story of a female softball team, leaving transitioning kids with no character to guide them on how to play female sports without of mice and menning their friends. Next, Trump considers soft invasion of Mexico, hoping that if he wedges the invasion in, it might catch and become a full-scale raging invasion that both partners can be happy with. We interview the design team behind Mangione's new jumpsuit, designed to have him look as cool as possible, and break down why less attractive criminals are put into trash bags. It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lately hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
People try and tell you what you gotta do. Don't listen to them unless you think it's true. Follow your heart and your dreams. Follow your heart and your dreams.
There we go. Guys, that was a pretty epic intro. I was talking about the Christmas miracle that came through, and you can see the Christmas spirit on my stomach right now that gifted me the money so I could take my entire family to this beautiful snowy mountain that we can enjoy Christmas together. And I told them no one gets to touch any gifts until after I podcast. And then I don't know what you guys do with your family for Christmas, but we do the smashing of the snowmen, where we draw straws for who gets to, pick the biggest one. and then we smash it and release the Jew spirits into the world, which allows us to make more money for the next year. Everyone has to have their traditions. Anyways, sorry for that delayed start, as apparently the wrong microphone was hooked up. And that's why everybody, you guys should come out for the live shows, because you get to see tech errors live in concert, such as, traveling all the way to Texas, putting together a 30-minute presentation, and then realizing you opened up the wrong draft and only doing 20 minutes, and then having to stand up there and go, I guess that's everything that I'm doing. We had an epic porch tour. Let me tell you, all porch tours are beautiful. Everyone should take an opportunity to come out for a porch, or just show up on your neighbor's lawn and take over his porch. Do a hostile takeover of your neighbor's porch and declare it porch tour. That's porch tour. If you can't make it to a porch tour and you want to experience porch tour, you take over your neighbor's porch and you invite a bunch of friends over, preferably if they're on vacation, and then they just look on their Ring camera and they're like, did my neighbor just throw a party on my porch, drink some beers, and then clean up and leave? Anyways, guys, we've got news to cover. It's spacey season. You guys have been home. Everyone's been drinking their hot cocoa, eating their cookies, harassing Santa because he didn't do a good enough job stocking their stuffing. No one likes a limp dick Santa showing up and just having a half-filled, unstocked stuffing. You want a fully stocked stuffing. Hey, if you got a stocked stuffing, does that mean that your parents didn't get you good gifts because nothing good, or only the good shit fits in a stocked stuffing? I don't know. I didn't do Christmas. We did Hanukkah. Hanukkah's a good time, though. I've gotten some good gifts over the years. Anyways, it's enough nonsense. I've dribbled enough. Let's get into some news. We do have some things to cover because, you know what? Christmas isn't my holiday, so I had no excuse not to be working. You know that little voice in your head that tells you to quit being a fucking loser? And by the way, for everyone that practices like better self-talk, the only reason I get anything done in my life is because there's a little voice in there that just goes, hey, quit being a fucking loser. And so you should make sure to say that to your kids a bunch when they're little so that they get that voice in their head, because that's really the only way to get anything. For all the, hey, have good self-esteem, be nice to yourself, go see a psychiatrist, get drugs, don't feel depressed. That's all the nonsense of the way that the modern medical system likes to work, so that they can infuse kids with chemicals and no one gets any work done, no one's successful, and they just walk around confused as to why the chemicals aren't working and why they're such miserable people. But if you want to know the keys to success, it's telling your kid when they're young, hey, quit being a fucking idiot. Or no, loser. That's the word I like to use. I say quit being a fucking loser, and then that gets me to get up off my ass and actually get shit done. And that's why, unlike everyone else who's taken today off to eat cookies and do absolutely nothing, even the only people working today are Asians. Is there anyone else working today? Even the Jews take off because they're like everyone else is taking off, and so nobody does anything. Even like the reliable gas stations that are typically open, they're closed. But you know what's open for Christmas? It's Run Your Mouth Enterprises of America. All right, here we go. Let's you know what, we can take some chat action. We don't have that much to cover. It's Christmas. David Allen, I feel like I would have agreed with him had I heard any of it. You definitely would have. Insert your own rant. Big Lebowski saying, LOL, I missed it. You've missed nothing. We've it's been nothing but dribble for 8/17. Let's pop another Zin and get things going over here. There's not enough coffee available on Christmas. Is Rice Aroli's open today? It should be. If Rice Aroli's was an actual establishment, I would be out there and I'd be giving away free Rice Aroli's as part of the Christmas spirit. And I would be drinking. I'd be having eggnog and rum. I would not be drinking eggnog and rum. I think I did that once in high school, and it was a good time because even in yeshiva, I used to make a big deal out of let's celebrate Christmas. And one year, I had read that there was a recipe for eggnog and rum, and I think both of those things are pretty delicious and don't mix all that well together. I used to drink a fair amount of rum in high school because in Washington Heights, you could just... It was a nice place to grow up as a kid when that voice in your head of quit being a fucking loser. Well, quit being a fucking loser voice in your head told me to drink more. I don't know why I thought that was, I guess it was cool at the time, but I used to love, I haven't drinking one of these in a million years, but I used to love the flavored Bacardis. Talk about, someone write the Are You Garbage Boys that they should have me on to talk about, Steel Reserve and Bacardi, raspberry flavored Bacardi. But I would love getting one of the small bottles of those. And let me tell you, talk about Christmas spirit. You know, I'm a whiskey guy. I like my rye whiskeys, but nothing gives you quite that warm, tingly feeling in your spine like some good, wholesome rum. All right, let's take 2 more comments, and then we can actually get into the episode. Liberty Time, they mix great, Robbie. You just have a Jewish tummy. That could be. You know what? I don't think I'd be eating drinking eggnog these days with the way that I handle dairy. But eggnog, here's the thing with eggnog. You want like 2 shots of eggnog, and you're like, man, this is amazing. This is like the most delicious milkshake I've ever had. Why do they only make this available by Christmas season? And then it's a little bit like cheesecake, where like cheesecake's delicious, but if you overdo it, like there's foods that you can overdo it, and like it takes a while before like, oh, I overdid it. Whereas like cheesecake, like, you know, sometimes you're being a fatty, and you're like, I think I can get away with the second piece of cheesecake, and then you're like, oh, which is both the face I make when I'm coming and shitting my pants. LOL, Steel Reserve and Raspberry Bacardi. Those were on separate occasions. Cane Cheddar, what are rights? That is not what we're going to be addressing on the Christmas episode. That is a little bit too much of a loaded question for, you know, all of us have holiday brain right now. We're avoiding our families. We've taken over the rented living room and said no one gets to open up their Christmas gifts until I do an episode. Heady questions such as what are rights is not the kind of thing that we're looking to delve into. Liberty Time, it's intended to differentiate from Mr. Poole. I don't know what that means, but all right, let's get into it. First, I don't know if you guys saw this last week in the Wall Street Journal, how the White House functioned with a diminished Biden in charge. And there are a couple odd things about this article. Firstly, there wasn't a lot of new information here. Firstly, everything Biden related at this point, it's not funny. It's not interesting. Like 3 years ago when everyone was pretending like he was totally fine, it was funny if you were calling out that he was a dumbass with dementia. But first and foremost, in this article, they almost refer to the White House as being its own entity. Can we, even if there's we need some new category of like no fault investigations. Like, for example, if Fauci gets a pardon, I say investigate and prosecute him anyways. And sure, he can't go to jail, but at least we can actually have a investigation and let the people know how they were lied to. And on the same note, if we had a president with dementia, I'd, for one, like to know all the funny stories of just how much dementia this guy had. Because, dementia is tragic, but it does have its funny moments, like having an entire meal with your family, bringing your grandfather back into his room, sitting him down, turning on the television and going, we can't put on the TV, we're supposed to go to family dinner. Is that tragic? Yes. If it's the guy that's supposed to be making decisions for the entire country, it's a little funny to hear about. It's a little bit funny when your grandfather doesn't realize his balls are out. Was Biden that much level dementia? Was he pulling shoes out of the fridge and trying to slice into it like it was a loaf of cake? Like, how much, you know what I mean? And then shouldn't there be a little bit of accountability for the people that are covering for the guy? Like, I mean, listen, if your relative is going in to do surgery every day and you know that he's actually got like Parkinson's, are you helping your relative and other people if you're pretending like the guy's fine? If you're coming along and subbing him out and having somebody else do the surgery so you could still charge some, or, well, even here, I guess Biden is making the decisions. So for one, I think we need a full report on who exactly was covering up for him and just how much dementia was going on behind the scenes. But the oddities of this article is, firstly, it's a long and boring read with no new information whatsoever, but it refers to the White House as if it's its own entity. Like as if the White House is an actual conscious entity, and so the White House itself is making the decisions, and here's how the White House addressed it. And how is the Wall Street Journal not interested? Well, who? Who is the actual person making the decisions then? Is it Hunter Biden that's making the decisions that he can only take these calls in the afternoon? As they keep talking about how the important individuals who are supposed to be behind the scenes making these decisions, your supposed experts, the deep state kooks, who are supposed to be able to get the president's ears so that they can tell him, hey, and then that's partly why they fault Afghanistan going so poorly, is because people who had good information about how to withdraw from Afghanistan better, people who had better pullout game were just trying to get a hold of the president and tell him, listen, if you try and you're going to end up with a pregnant Taliban that's giving birth to Al-Qaeda if you do it this way. But the presidents with the better pullout game, they couldn't get a hold of Joe Biden. And so you get an entire article here that just refers to the White House as if it's its own conscious creature making its decisions, covering up for Joe Biden without any real reporting on who exactly was covering up for him and what were Biden's funniest dementia moments. I want to know, what were the funniest moments that Joe Biden had where he clearly shouldn't have been making decisions in any capacity? And then who stepped up to make those decisions for him? And what is the mechanism for some degree of accountability here for people lying to us on a daily basis and pretending like the person in the White House is still in control? All right, moving on. And we might have to take a pee break here. I have to pee pretty badly. And I don't want to end the stream. I don't want to restart the stream. I don't want to pull an Ari Shafir and pee in my own studio space. You got to do that in other people's studio spaces. And you have to have Ari's wonderful penis that's worth pulling out in public. All right. Why did I put this here? Oh, yeah. So we finally... They increased the debt limit. There was a whole argument about the debt limit, all the things that the government's spending on. It's it's kind of like the scene in Tin Men. If you've ever seen the movie Tin Men or have never seen the movie Tin Men, I advise you go watch the movie Tin Men. It's an old school classic movie. Danny DeVito and the dude from Jaws, and they're both selling tin, running their scams until the government comes in, shuts down all their scams. And it's a great movie. But there's this scene where Danny DeVito and the guy from Jaws are pretending like they want to fight each other in the parking lot, but neither of them actually wants to fight in the parking lot. And so they got to make a whole scene about how they're about to throw a punch and they're about to throw a punch and their friends are pulling them back, and then it breaks up because some cop drives by, and then neither of them get to do the fight that they did not want to do anyways. And that's why the debt talk is so annoying. Nobody wants to weaken or take back government spending. They want to print all the money all the time. They want to spend all the money that doesn't even exist. They want to bankrupt everybody. They want to continue to rob us from inflation. They want to pretend like these entitlement programs aren't going to blow up at some point, where we got to keep this Ponzi scheme going. Make sure that women remain in the workforce. Make sure that women don't actually stay home and take care of their kids. Force everyone to work. Generate taxable income, make sure that that people have high union wages so that we could tax that. We got to keep everybody in the system, and then we've got to be the ones pretending like, hey, this is, at some point we're going to be the elderly, telling kids that are working their asses off that they have golden spoons in their mouth and that we never had it as good as they did, so that they feel shamed into working hard, so that hopefully they can keep the entitlement programs going until we die. And then maybe that generation of people will be fortunate enough to reach their elder years. And sure, their pensions won't look as good as ours. Their Social Security checks won't be as have the purchasing power of ours. But then the best that they'll be able to do is try and shame the younger generation into not having kids and working even harder than we did, so that perhaps a little bit of the Ponzi scheme can keep going and that they can enjoy some entitlement programs as well. And that's where we are as a country. The elderly engaging in psychological abuse of the younger generations, inventing more and more drugs to keep them working, and then more and more drugs to try and placate the anxiety and the depression of them wondering, why the hell are we living our lives this way? And that's the American system of the wise elderly fleecing the young to keep the Ponzi scheme going, so that they can continue to print their checks and pretend like we care about the poor and that this is the better way of life, that we need socialism, we need government to step into the market, we need them to hijack the wealth, and as long as I can have a little bit of payment on the way out as I'm dying as an old person, well, then it was all worthwhile. And so anyways, we go through this charade of the debt limits. They put together bills that nobody can read. Everyone just wants their little slice of the pie. They like to slip in their little things like cancer research. They could go, oh, if you oppose this thing, you just want more kids to have cancer. The only reason that the Republicans, sure, could we have just done one bill and gone, hey, we all don't like childhood cancer? Why don't we all just vote on funding childhood cancer? Here's one thing that we can all agree on. We would like to see less childhood cancer. But you know what we'll do is we'll stick it into this 1,200-page document that ensures a whole bunch of other bullshit like more money for wars and in Israel and every little cause that I need to pay out the couple companies so that I can remain in power and be a congressman in this area. And instead of fixing all that, we're going to, or just voting on the childhood cancer, we're going to stick that thing in so we can go, oh, the only reason that they oppose this is not the 1,700 other pages of the bill, but it's the one page that we had on childhood cancer research, and the other side doesn't like it. Anyways, this was from The Hill, and I thought that this was particularly childish, and so I was amused by it. So let's go full screen. Let's give it a read, and then I'm going to be an old man and go pee, and I'll just leave it up. You guys won't know if I'm peeing in the studio. I'll just turn on the faucet and make you guys think that I have the world's healthiest stream. Like I pee like a fucking elephant. All right, let's read it. The incoming president further complicated the situation by insisting House Republicans pass a bill to raise the debt limit so Biden would get the blame for piling more onto the national debt. How childish is this? Does anyone care? Is anyone following this point system of who raised the national debt? Hey, let's shut down the government just so that the other person's at fault for raising the debt limit so that it doesn't look like I had to raise the debt limit. I mean, did Donald Trump really care about raising debt limits or appearing like he was spending too much? I like deficits. Deficits are good. It means more money. I like low interest rates, high deficits. That's what I'm all about. That's the way I've run my businesses, sure. Some of them go bankrupt, but sometimes they work out. You know, the childish, nobody's following this sport. Nobody cares about these debt limits. You guys threaten to shut down the government every 3 months when we realize, oh my God, look at how much money is being spent just on the interest for the debt. This makes no sense. The Pentagon fails every single audit, and most of the expenditures that we're approving aren't on the books because they're like pension funds, and, they're benefit now, pay later schemes where we promise you guys the benefits now so you'll work real hard, and then you just have to imagine that we're not going to go bankrupt down the line. You're going to get your Social Security and your Medicaid, your this, your that, or the other thing. Talking too fast because I really got to pee. But the point I'm being is the childishness of not wanting to address this situation and trying to force Biden to raise the debt limit as if this is a metric that anybody follows or cares about. Let's continue. Johnson then unveiled a slimmed-down 116-page bill that kept the timeline of funding government until March 14th and provided roughly $100 billion in disaster relief, along with $10 billion in farm aid, which I'm going to assume that the farm aid is just for the specific farm groups that have the best pull in government. They want to make sure that their corn and soy and other shit that just poisons us remains lucrative so that, your independent farmers can't just get you some grass-fed beef and compete in the market. All right, everybody, I invite you to take this opportunity. If that was a real Christmas tree, wouldn't that be funny if I pretended like it was? This is my pee stance, by the way. You want to open up your butthole a little bit so that your prostate can breathe, which allows you to get the healthy stream going. That would be the funniest thing to do, is just pee on my own green screen and pretend like that was a live tree. All right, everybody. This obnoxiously long break in the show is brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. And if you did not buy Christmas gifts for your family and you're still scrambling and you're not sure what your loved ones would like, or they're all mad at you because you showed up without gifts and with half-filled stockings, well, now's the opportunity to make good on this. You know, it's like forgetting about your wife's anniversary, which is also your anniversary, but you're a dude, you don't give a shit. Or you forgot about your girlfriend's birthday, and now you're scrambling. You need to make sure that you show up with a gift good enough that you can salvage your relationship. Well, what makes your loved one feel better than knowing that you got the best price on Kratom on the entire market? YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, and the only place on the internet where you can get an entire kilo of Kratom for just $6. And now, maybe just hum like a Christmas tree, oh, Christmas, like hum some nice, pleasant songs in the background.
And I'm going to go pee, and I'll be back shortly. But we're not stopping the stream. And for people that consume the show later on Spotify, there will be no edits. So this is kind of like when they used to play The Log. You could just turn on NBC and see a log burning, and they could make advertising dollars somehow from a log burning. Well, this is your opportunity to imagine that you make as much podcast income as I do, and that you could afford beautiful places like this to take your family for the holidays. So, just sit there and enjoy the Christmas background while I go take a pee. I will be back shortly. And we are back. Listen, while I was out, did you guys manage to catch on camera any of the studio creatures that like to unplug the equipment and turn off my microphones? That's what I was hoping for. It was a trap for the studio creatures to see like a Ring camera if maybe one of them came out from hiding behind the Christmas gifts and unplug stuff live on camera so we could figure out which of the producers needs to be fired. Because we do have a pretty big staff over here. This one I also was amused by in terms of the government shutdown. If Congress had failed to act, the federal government would have partially shut down, furloughing hundreds of thousands of federal workers through critical services would continue to function. Doesn't really sound like much of a threat. You know, every single time government seems to come to these fiscal cliffs and shut down and go, oh my God, we don't have enough money. And so maybe we should actually address the fact that we're going to be robbing from future generations and ultimately having to default on the debt and end up in World War III with somebody who's mad that we didn't pay them. Well, apparently the big risk of going through the process of addressing the situation is that the non-critical workers would be temporarily furloughed. All right, let's move on to our next topic, which is U.S. fighter jets shot down over Red Sea and disasters, friendly fire incident. And of course, they don't tell you who did the friendly fire. So I'm just going to assume that it was Israel being like, look, we accidentally shoot at things all the time. You know, it's just for the civilians in Gaza, our own military, your military. We're just, you know, we're just bad with guns. But send us more of them. Send us more of the guns and send us more of the missiles. But, you know, it's just, it's not personal. It's not like we're trying to kill the civilians in Gaza. It's just, you know, we accidentally shoot things a whole bunch of the time. And this brings me to, which is what we called today's episode, is that the governments are going full Alex Jones. And that I saw this video of Putin talking about that he's starting to challenge the vampires, that you've got vampires out there that for too long they've been, feasting on the rest of us. And that's why Putin's actually going after the vampires. And I'm like, man, this guy's getting good at the internet bullshit game. He's realizing that the Americans are getting sick of the American government. We're realizing that they're fleecing of us of our wealth. They're putting shots that we don't need in our arms. They're lying to us all the time, and it's not in our interest. And in terms of trying to persuade us that he's actually on the side of good and our American government that's transing the kids, and you guys know I get my talking points directly from Putin, so that's why I understand the demons that Putin's actually standing up against, as his fine, wholesome Christian country that also keeps his system with an oligarchy so that he can be the wealthiest person on earth. But he's on the side of good, and we all understand that because, I got the Putin talking point, so I understand these things. But, it's fun when governments start talking like Alex Jones. And as the entire internet is obsessed now with these storylines because government lies to us all the times, they're driving us crazy by putting drones in the sky and blinking lights at us, driving the country insane, turning us all into Cosmo Kramer in that episode where the chicken place is across the street and he can't stand the neon lights. And then, they're projecting things with flashy lights that just they can drive us crazy, and they lie to us all the time. They don't tell us anything that's true. The Epstein storyline comes out and then they just kill him off so we can't find out about that. And so we know that our government's up to no good. We know that they're not working against our interests, and that leaves all of the room to fill in the blanks with whatever conspiracy, fantasy story you want to drum up because nobody actually knows what's going on within our reality. And Putin's getting that read on us. He's seeing the fact that the American people no longer trust. And so why not come forward? Because this is what's great for the conspiracy people is like, look, even Putin's talking about vampires. So let's give this one a watch. And hopefully with sound, unless when I was out, one of the producers was scrambling around and unplugging things. You guys let me know if we got sound. We should.
Они привыкли столетиями набивать брюхо человеческой плотью, а карманы деньгами. Но они должны понять, что бал вампиров
The vampire ball is ending. Words from Putin. And, this is really changing the game where even the world leaders are going to start talking about things like the vampire ball coming to an end. And maybe he'll come out with the evidence that the Joe Biden family is in fact vampires. He's been faking his dementia the entire time. He's perfectly fine. These people just put on old people costumes so that we think that they're older than they are, but really they just remain youthful. Nancy Pelosi never had a hip break, and if you could see how perfectly pristine her tits still are, you would realize that that's actually a young lady. And that's why these people, they're just pretending to be old. They're actually secretly young. But guess what? Our CIA is engaging in the exact same game where they're realizing just how much bullshit is on the internet. And so to keep us off their tails, they decided, you know what? Let's release some total horse shit as well. If the entire world doesn't buy our propaganda anymore and they just prefer these fantasy stories of what's actually going on with the universe, here's a good one. CIA doc claims life did exist on Mars and it was a population of very large people who built pyramids. And apparently the CIA engaged in astro projections. As to what that is or how it works, it's not real, so it doesn't matter. So you give a bunch of drug addicts drugs, and you tell them that as long as they can fabricate images and report to you things that they're seeing in other places, you will confirm the facts that they're actually not drug addicts who will just tell you what you want to hear so that you'll give them more drugs. But what you do is you tell them, hey, just pretend like you're on Mars and tell us what you see, and then we'll give you more drugs because you actually have ESP and psychic powers in which you can transport yourself into other times and places and observe what's going on there. Hey, here, take this DMT, describe what you're seeing, and then we're going to go report it in the news as if that's actually our reality. And so here you have it. This is reported from the Daily Mail. I saw it in other places as well, but there's a CIA doc claiming that pyramids were made by giant creatures that lived on Mars. I guess at some point they were over here, and that's what happened in Egypt when they shared their technology with us. But their world was coming to an end, so they just wanted to seed our world with life. And then there was a flood, and it took out the giants. And I'm calling horseshit on this one. I think this is a poisoning of the well. I think the elites are starting to learn the internet game and that there's nothing but horseshit out there. So why don't they just get crazier with the horseshit that they leak so that we'll all be more confused about what's going on all the time? While NASA is searching for life on Mars, a CIA document claims it was found 40 years ago. The report, Mars Exploration, May 22nd, 1984, details how the agency used astral projection, the idea that a spirit can travel through the astral plane to transport a subject to Mars approximately 1 million years before Christ. All right. I'll believe it when I get to see it. Next, and before we get into this one, let's why not take a couple comments. BSO saying, I just want to remote view the college girl shower. There's some good 90s humor for you. Where do I sign up for that? You got to go to the Epstein wing of the CIA. C-Step, Harvard. Fair enough. Lizard Scars coming through, wishing me a Merry Christmas. To you as well, good sir. John Popick, Robbie Peed came back and then started his Sam Tripoli-inspired conspiracy section of the pod talking about vampires and aliens. That is accurate. Sam Tripoli, OG in the conspiracy space, unbelievable comedian, and a dear pal, if I may say so. BSO, damn it, that sounds expensive. All right, Aggressively Yeti, you're going to see a lot of pee in those showers. And then last is... Aaron W. saying, hey, you guys. All right. This was from the New York Post. Sleeping subway rider burned alive on F-train after crazy attacker tosses lit match on her per police sources. First is, for those who thought that the Marine guy shouldn't be going to jail, that they preferred living in a reality where, hey, let's ignore the psychopaths that are on the subway. Just because people are getting on all fucked up on drugs and threatening that they're happy to go back to jail and they'll kill every one of you people, like the lady in Pulp Fiction. Let's take the side of the person who's actually going to do something. And remember, don't do something because, if the cops see you getting burned alive, they won't even have the dignity to try and pee you out. They won't even do that. They'll just go, oh, you know what? That's a fire department issue. We're here for other kinds of emergencies. That's a fire. And so we're not supposed to address fires. That's supposed to be for the other department. And they'll be here just in time to stomp out the ashes. So just give her 4 minutes. If you guys have some marshmallows, here's your opportunity. We're just going to wait on the fire department. So firstly, just days after, some people were absolutely outraged that the guy who took some action and tried to subdue a crazy... We can't have people subduing crazy people on the subways. If we have the normies trying to subdue the crazies, look, a crazy might get killed. Well, I think this kind of showcases the problem of just letting the crazies run wild and the potential consequences if you game theory out, telling people that if they take actions, they will be held responsible if they're actually not well. Like, instead of rewarding the bravery and going, all right, that wasn't good what you did, and people should be careful, but, at least you stepped up and did something when the crazy guy was just threatening everybody. You get this just a couple days, a couple weeks later, reminding people of when you just let crazy run crazy. All right. Then, of course, just because it's nice to make these politicians look like the assholes that they are, so you've got the governor was talking about how safe the subways are, literally on the day that this happened, going, well, those subways are safe. And I've been talking about this, that they're taxing the cars. They're trying to make it more expensive for everybody that wants to drive in New York City so that they can force us to take the public transportation that, of course, this is the kind of stuff that's happening on. They're going to put up the, instead of taxing you and then putting more money into the roads so that more people could take the roads and enjoy the roads and not have to be on the subway. If anything, this is proof of the fact that they need even more money to safely operate the subway. The problem right now is, despite I don't even know how in debt or how many billions of dollars go a year to each year annually to the MTA to run the subway, it's not mismanagement, it's not unions, it's none of that. It's that there's actually not enough money to keep us all safe. What is the NYPD? They say it's like the third biggest army in the entire world or something. It's not. What we need is more money for the police and more money for the MTA. And if we could get more money and more police officers, then we can keep you from getting burned alive on the subways. And in order to ensure that the subways are safe, what we need is to tax the people who want to use the other products, the competing ways of transportation, so that we actually have the resources to make sure that people aren't being burned alive. All right. And here it is. Fox News, Hochul slammed for saying she made subways safer on same day women burned alive on train. And the other part that just really showcases how much of a just the dickheadery of all of these politicians is, of course, it turns out that this individual was an illegal immigrant. Not only was he an illegal alien, he was someone who I should have double checked these things. I believe he was deported from the country under the Trump administration and then managed to come back in under the Biden administration. And it'll be interesting to see if some of these chickens finally come home to roost of what kind of problems do we have from all the illegal immigration that took place under the Biden administration. And when you no longer have the FBI lying about crime statistics, and you no longer have the government engaging in censorship to keep you from knowing about any of these storylines of the problems that have manifested from all of the illegal immigration that took place as Biden encouraged as many people as possible to pour over that border, how many other incidents are going to happen of people that don't have the same incentives to behave within our society? People that don't live here, don't have families here, didn't go to the same schools as you, weren't indoctrinated the same way to go, hey, I'm a part of this system and I want America to be a great place, but just people that have nothing to live for, nothing to lose, coming over here and then doing drugs and burning people alive on subways. I mean, we'll see. We will see over the next couple of years just how disastrous and what the consequences of the open border policy is going to be. And along those lines, here is myocarditis addressing complaints, concerns, outrage over the fact that apparently there's a lot of missing children that have poured over the border. Now, I do want to point out, because you're going to hear a lot of Fauci talk here from myocarditis of, our job is just this specific thing of securing the border. And sure, we weren't good at that. But once people come over the border, the fact that the children that were incentivized to just be snuck over the border or come over the border are going missing, that's actually not my doing. It's a little bit like if I look at the problems in this country, I go, all of it is based on the money that the Fed makes available. And the Fed making the money available is the root cause for credit asset bubbles being created, inflation, endless wars, and corporations not having to actually compete and create value, but just having proximity to the Fed and more access to capital that you do. And so I can look at it and go, all right, there's a head vampire here, and that's the free money that the Federal Reserve is able to make available. And so similarly, if you want to talk about the problems of having too many illegal immigrants in the country, it would be creating policies to incentivize as many of them as possible to cross over the border. Having NGOs that who knows how they get their money, why they exist, or why they want to be down there, giving out pamphlets, making it easier to come in, letting people know, hey, the border's wide open, and purposely not constructing a border wall that had already been funded, but actually trying to sell off the parts that are available, and really just having a flagrantly open border policy of which every time Mayorkas got up there and they tried to gill, I wouldn't call it a disaster. I wouldn't call it, what was the word that they were trying to use? I wouldn't call it I forget, an emergency. Just everything. We're trying. We're taking initiatives. We're bolder steps. We care about our mission. My God, did that guy lie and Fauci it up as he was clearly the face of, hey, let's incentivize and have policies that get as many people over the border as possible, and give me the most weaselly guy of, can you find me a Fauci, but for the immigration category, who will just lie and pretend, oh, well, we're just as concerned as you are. We're taking new initiatives. We take our mission seriously. And so, firstly, he pulls classic Fauci government maneuver of, well, I'm not at fault for what's going on with missing kids. Missing kids isn't my responsibility. I mean, sure, I could have changed the whole thing so that less of them were coming into the country and that there wasn't as much incentive for people to be bringing people into the country. And sure, maybe I'm responsible for creating too much opportunity for missing kids. But once the kids go missing, that's the other department. That's not on me. One thing, though, that I do want to clarify, and it's a admission from myocarditis, that there's a lot of people that don't actually report to their court hearings and that we don't actually know where they are and we aren't tracking these individuals. And if you just think about, I believe even 9/11 was from people that came illegally over the southern border. Once again, another thing I can fact check myself on, but I read a book that talked about how most of the people, I believe, came in illegally through the southern border. But as we have growing concerns for, potentially who came over the border, gangs that came over the border. So you're going to hear an admission from myocarditis that at a minimum, once people don't show up for their court hearings, we don't actually know where they are or what they're doing in this country, which even that I don't believe. With the facial recognition software that I have to deal with every single time I'm on an airport, every single time I'm on a highway, I can't go into a state through an easy pass. I can't go anywhere without them knowing exactly where I am at all times and tracking me through my license plate and my easy pass. I find it hard to believe that people or the way that they were managed to track down all those January 6 people, supposedly just through Facebook profiles and, the images, the cameras that were there on that day. I don't believe any of this. I think they know where we all are all the time. And if they want to open up your file, they know everything. But they're claiming, hey, listen, these people, sure, we told them to appear to court. And then if they don't appear to court, apparently we don't know where the hell they are. So to clarify, there are a lot of missing children who came into the country. Now, those missing children, or at least I haven't seen a specific number of how many of them were potentially child trafficked, but it could also be that a lot of these kids just did not appear for their court dates. So every missing child does not mean that they're now in a basement somewhere. But there's two takeaways. One, people can sneak into this country, not show up for their court dates, and then, according to this, we have no idea where they are, and we don't know what condition they're in. And we've certainly created opportunities for additional child trafficking. And, of course, the person who's responsible for all this, now that it's coming to light, well, I had nothing to do with this. That was the other department. And, of course, we only hear about these problems at the end of the administration, not on day one where it's, hey, if you're creating an open border where we're incentivizing more people to come in, how do you know that the children coming into this country will actually be safe? And mind you, all that outrage about children being separated from the people that they came across the border with, which, yeah, you could say they're guardians. But anyways, remember there was all that outrage of, hey, we can't have these people being held in cages and we can't be separating them from their families. What we need is an open border because that's more compassionate without thinking a couple steps ahead of, oh, if endless people are pouring through the border, how are we actually ensuring that the kids coming in are not just being trafficked in and that they'll continue to be safe? Well, we give them court dates. Okay, well, do we have a mechanism for checking on them if they're not showing up for their court dates? No. So isn't that actually more dangerous than us separating them, creating less of an incentive to come into the country and deporting them back? But mind you, we don't hear any of these things while it's going on. It's always, once you're out the door from the administration, hey, I'm even more concerned than you guys are, and it's actually not my fault, it's that department's. Okay, with that long introduction, here's the actual clip, and then I'll take some comments.
ICE was also unable to account for more than 32,000 unaccompanied kids who failed to appear in court from 2019 to 2023, according to the report we read. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, says these children are being exploited and trafficked. Is that true?
Well,
Do you
certainly, Margaret, we certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. What we do is we turn children over within 72 hours, as the law requires, to the Department of Health and Human Services, and then HHS places those children. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking, but there are children who are...
Stated differently, Sure, did I oversee a policy that created a situation where more children went missing? Yes, but is that actually my responsibility, or was it a violation of the law? No. And so I'm not even sure why you would be asking me this question. I'm not at fault. I mean, sure, it was the policy that I oversaw and implemented that led to this problem, but to be pointing your finger at me as if I'm at fault for the negative repercussions of my policy, when it's in fact another department that is supposed to clean up the mess, and then there's this division because that's the way they always do it. It was that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, and then there you go, nobody's accountable. Continue.
Are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move, and sometimes the government loses track. Individuals do not comply with their reporting obligations or otherwise. I think it is inaccurate to say that all of them are trafficked or victimized. There are a number of reasons why we might lose track of an individual. That is not necessarily specific to this administration. That has been.
So you don't know exactly how many kids are being victimized right now, but just remember, even though it's clearly more, we don't know the percentages or the root of the, or just how big of a problem is. That's not specific to us, because even if it's 10x or 20x larger than in the current administration, we've seen this in other administrations as well. It's almost like if you sent us into, let's imagine that Trump decided, let's have a full-scale invasion of Mexico. And they don't listen to the generals about having the proper equipment. And the United States Army takes its worst military losses ever in American history, and the entire Marine Force, the first round in the invasion, is just a failure. And then you went, well, deaths in the military is not new to this administration. There's always been deaths in the military, and so it's not new that there are deaths in the military. Well, that's not, yeah, sure. I guess in previous administrations, there might have been some amount of kids. The question is, did your policy lead to an increase? And do you have any idea how big of a problem this is as you're now on the way out and we might have to clean up your mess and actually do something to protect kids?
And a long-standing challenge in the immigration system. One example of why that system is so broken, why the duration of time in proceedings is unacceptably long and has to be remedied. Remember, we're dealing with a system that was last reformed in 1996.
Isn't there something amazing about being in charge of a system for 4 years? I think we'll find out. Purposely engaged in activities to see as many people coming over the border as possible, but then going, it's disgusting how broken this is. It's like being the CEO of a failing company and going and just taking vacation for the entire time and then spending all of the resources that were available at the company to take on new debt so that you could throw better company parties, and going, I'm just disgusted by how broken this company is. All right, let's cover a couple more topics, then we'll call it an episode. Shout out Sheath, the only place where you can get the official sponsor of the Run Your Mouths podcast, incredibly glorious underwear. And as we talk about Santa and stocking some stuffings, you know what your dick needs? It needs to be stocking up a sheath pouch. If you want to make sure that your balls are comfortably tucked in between your legs and that your thighs aren't chafing and that you are comfortable as you maneuver through life and you're prepared for all the chaos that the United States government throws at you, you need to go to sheath.com, the official underwear sponsor of the Run Your Mouth podcast. And if you use code RYM, you're going to get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Don't go into the new year with shitty underwear. All right, people out there, I need somebody who works in finance and somebody that knows some AI website building tools to help make my scam a reality. Because my God, am I good at front running the government scams. And here we have from the New York Times, the new climate gold rush, scrubbing carbon from the sky. This summer, Bill Gates huddled in London with representatives of some of the world's wealthiest people, including the Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos, and SoftBank founder, Mayoshi Son, and Prince Alwantan bin Talal of Saudi Arabia. They were evaluating their joint investment in companies that could help the world combat climate change. Among the businesses in their portfolio, 4 stood out as having a particularly audacious goal. They were working to strip carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for a profit. Guys, hire carbon reducing trees. Just create a website. Yeah, you throw some, we just need to fuck some mint trees with some bamboo. I don't know. Bamboo grows real quick. And I don't know. Mint smells nice. It keeps away rodents and it takes more carbon. Just someone come up with something. There's got to be some botanist here who, what tree out there takes the most carbon out of the environment? What grows the quickest? Let's fuck those two trees together and say that we've got the higher carbon reducing tree. Then we start finding what land on the planet is the cheapest and is the least used. And we just start planting the trees and claiming, hey, over the lifetime of this tree, here's how much carbon it's going to reduce. And then you sell that to a company at 5 times its value for the perceived carbon that it may or may not take out of the universe and the possible. Then you sell all your future growth off of the amount of new technological developments you're going to have from even higher carbon reducing trees. And then 25 years from now, you've got a tech company that never actually turned a profit that has the highest evaluation in the stock market as more people get excited about it and eventually BlackRock invests and buys it out. And we can walk away with a couple $100 million and then we can work on the next scam. There's no honest money being made anywhere. Why not get in on the racket? If you're out there and you've got the business sense to make my scam a reality, higher carbon reducing trees, let's front run this market. If we can just get enough hype behind it, you can get Bill Gates to go, shit, these people are running the scam better than I am. Listen, let them be the billionaires and we'll be the 100 millionaires. I'll take the $200 million buyouts so that they can go ruin the earth and keep everybody else poor for the billions. I just want the credit for the initial idea. All right. Biden administration auctioning pieces of border wall report. And as I said, the chickens are coming home to roost on this issue. Luckily, Biden is going to have some, what, me? I ain't open boy. Myocarditis will walk away, and I'm sure he won't remember other people's department. Wasn't my job. I worked with these other individuals. Oh, look, I was pardoned for this anyways. But the Biden administration was auctioning off pieces of the border wall. There you have it. You've got them going for pennies on the dollar, $5 a slab. I was saying that the single funniest thing that we could do with the border slabs at this point would be to take them and just build them around the migrant centers that were built and reclaim them to be Mexico, which I'm basically just pitching new internment camps. But I'm just saying, it's Bugs Bunny-like to have snuck into the country, get prime real estate in New York City, and then find out that it's actually been redeclared Mexico. And then here, we'll close out the show with this. I cut it because it was great. We're in bonus time here, but here is for Christmas, Joe Biden letting you know that for a limited time only, you can purchase the border wall. Roll the clip, call it a holiday. There we go.
Border wall has to go. The entire wall. I'm selling it before Christmas. You can stock a stuffing, put it between you and your neighbors. It's a fire sale. Getting rid of the whole wall. It's expensive steel, man. Spend millions constructing and storing it. For a limited time, you can have it for just $5.
There you go. Merry Christmas, everybody. You can get back to your families, eat some extra gingerbread. Are gingerbread good cookies? I prefer like a very gingery ginger cookie with the sugar sprinkled on the top. I find the gingerbread, man, they don't got that sprinkle on the top. It needs the sugary sprinkle on the top with a very dense ginger flavor in the cookie. Like I like a ginger snap. That's what I'm describing. A ginger snap where it's got that ginger harshness where you feel like I'm both wrecking my stomach but healing my stomach at the same time. It's like the speedball of cookies. All right, that is our episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. Back, I don't know, maybe this weekend or next week, Wednesday, with a new episode. And then for next year, I got to get in touch with Andrew, or we're going to shoot up a Patreon and try and be doing at least probably 2 public episodes a week, and then the leftover and call-in show for people that want to support the show. And then hopefully with those funds, we can start investing into filming more sketches for the show, maybe hiring my buddy Menuhin, get some Rob's Newsroom action, go through those archives. Anyways, big hopes, big dreams, and I'm going to go make love to that Christmas tree.